Welcome back, guys. Jimmy Jules here again with another CREY prop tutorial. In today's episode, we'll be going over the calculator prop. The calculator allows you to do traditional programming operations, and it works a bit like an if and then function. So for example, if this signal is greater than another one, then do this. I'll double click on the prop here to open up the settings page, and I'll just go through some of the settings that we can configure. The value A and B ports are for the numbers that the calculator will use for the calculation. So you can see currently in value A we have number 2, and in value B we have number 8. These values are being sent from another prop, the number displayer, and we're sending the number directly from that settings menu into the calculator's value. So if we change the number displayer to a 3, the calculator will receive that 3 through the wire and update its values. If we don't have anything plugged into the calculator's input ports, we can manually set these numbers. But if you do have wires plugged in, those wires will overwrite the values that are in the box. As things are happening in our game, we're able to calculate things and use those outputs to affect other things in our game. The second option on the settings page is the type of calculation that the calculator will perform. At the moment, this is set to add, so it's going to add 3 and 8 to make 11. It also has a subtract, a multiply, a divide, a less than, which gives out a yes or a no in the form of a 1 or a 0. So because 3 is less than 8, we'll get a yes. If we change this to a 9, you'll see that 9 is not less than 8, so we'll get a no. You'll get the opposite output with the greater than option. So 9 is greater than 8, so we'll get a yes. Next we have the equal to function, which will also output a true or false. So 9 is not equal to 8, so we're getting a false. If we change this to a 9, we'll get a true. We've also got the maximum option, which will output the maximum of our 2 inputs. Again, you'll get the opposite for the minimum option. This will give us the minimum of our 2 inputs. And finally we have the round option, which will round our input to the nearest whole number. Then down the bottom of the settings page, we have the power option, which will enable and disable the calculator's outputs. I'll go through a few uses of the calculator with you now. For this setup here, I've got 4 golden bunny collectibles. When you've collected all 4 of these bunnies, it's going to open up a passage for us. This is done with a calculator, checking whether the number of collectibles that we've got is equal to 4. If I go and collect these bunnies, you'll see we get a little transition, and the passage has now opened for us. I'm using a sensor here, which is activating a variable modifier and adding 1 to our gold bunnies variable. After it's been collected, it also hides the gold bunny so it can't be seen anymore. I've got this copied 4 times, so our variable modifiers will increase our variable up to 4. I've then got our variable plugged into a calculator, with the current value going into value A. I've got this set to equal to, and value B is at 4. So if our gold bunnies variable is equal to 4, then it will activate the rest of the props. I've also got a camera transition that I'm controlling with calculators as well. To get this to work, I needed an exclusive OR gate to activate an output if one signal was active, but not if both were active. To do that, I've used 2 calculators. One of them is adding signals together, and the other is checking whether the input is equal to 1. So for example, when our player has collected the 4 gold bunnies, it will set value B to 1. This calculator is checking whether the input is equal to 1, so it will activate the camera. A timer also gets started when the player has collected the 4 bunnies, and when that timer finishes, it activates port A on the calculator. This will increase the output to 2, meaning it will no longer be equal to 1, and it will turn the camera back off. The calculator is also activating a hider and a directional mover to hide the golden bunny and move the rocks out of the way. So when it all comes together, you get the camera turn on and then turn back off again. Another handy thing with calculators is that you can chain them one after the other. This means that we can do a few checks on the one signal. For example, if we wanted to divide our maximum number by our minimum number, and we had numbers that were changing on the fly, we'd need a way to make sure that the larger number was in value A, and the smaller number was in value B. For this, we can use the minimum and the maximum options on the calculator. We've got the maximum of our two inputs going into value A, and the minimum going into value B. This will ensure that we're always dividing the larger number by the smaller number. For this example, we have 8 divided by 2, which is equal to 4, but we could change these number displays around. We could change this one to 2 and this one to 8, and you can see the calculators rearrange the values so that the maximum is still in value A and the minimum is still in value B. Finally, we'll go through how you might modify more than 2 inputs with a calculator. To do this, we'll chain the calculators together again. In this example, we'll add 4 numbers together, and these numbers are the ones that are being displayed by the number displayers. And to add all of these together, we've got one calculator adding 2 of the numbers, another calculator adding the 2 that are left over, and then we've got the outputs from both of these calculators plugged into another addition calculator. So it's getting the results from our first 2 additions and adding those together. This number is then being sent into our number displayer. Anyway guys, that's a few examples for the calculator and how you might use it in your games. I hope this video helped you understand how the prop works. If you've got any questions at all, definitely leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.